Also, wir sind hier mit Ian Jorgensen von Synthstrom Audible, um wirklich, wirklich wichtige Fragen zu klären. Die allererste ist nämlich, wie spricht man den Namen von dem wundervollen Gerät, das ich so liebe, eigentlich aus? So, how do you pronounce the name of your device? Because I'm always unsure.
Well, I mean, in New Zealand, we say the word deluge. But, obviously in France, it's a French word, to them it's more like deluge.
Yeah.
But I mean, I am not French and I don't actually know how to pronounce it properly. So I guess it's whatever country you're in, it's however you would say that word. We don't mind how people say it. It's, but yeah, I think we say just deluge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also Neuseeland, wo er herkommt, da sagt man Deluge, aber in Frankreich ist es eher Deluge. Aber er hat kein Problem damit, man soll es so aussprechen, wie man es in seinem Land gewohnt ist. Es ist alles okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So, would you tell us something more about your musical roots?
So I started out in New Zealand as a promoter. I've put on something like 600 parties and toured maybe 100 bands through New Zealand and the world. And then I started putting on a music festival, and this is how Rowan first and me linked. Is he used to come to all my events, he'd come to my festivals every year. I had a thing called the Renegade Room, where anybody can play. So even if you're not booked on the lineup, I supply all the gear, a PA, an engineer, lighting, and anyone who wants can play a set. And Rowan played in there, and I think he actually played the song Synthstrom with his old band in my Renegade Room at the camp. This is before we knew each other properly. And then we just sort of developed a relationship through me just knowing that he was, supportive of all my events. And then I followed him on Facebook and then saw him tinkering around, building these weird little prototypes. So even though I was a musician maybe 20 years ago, I realized I wasn't a good musician, but I realized I should work with other people who are good musicians to promote their work. And so my background is in events and parties and promotion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also die Frage war nochmal, wo seine musikalischen Wurzeln liegen?
Genau, und er hat in Neuseeland Konzerte organisiert, über 560 Stück, hat auch eine eigene Location gehabt, wo jeder spielen konnte und auftreten konnte. Und da hat er auch Ronan kennengelernt, der schon mit dem Deluge angefangen hatte den ersten Prototype und sie haben sich dann ausgetauscht, sind über Facebook connected und sind dann so in Kontakt gekommen, haben auch zusammen Musik gemacht und daraus hat sich dann nach und nach das Gerät entwickelt.
Brilliant. So, what music do you prefer at the moment, and do you still find the time to make music?
I mean, I used to make a lot of music pre-COVID, and I got really good at performing because I was, I had like 50 shows booked, I think, through that pandemic period. And but then as soon as the pandemic hit, it hurt so much, and to cancel all that stuff that I couldn't even play music for a while. And then I just kind of got rusty and I got loose and bad. And now when I pick up the device myself, I know I'm no way near as good as I once was, and that's quite painful. And I see the distance at which I need to get back to where I was, and it's a struggle to work out because I don't need to be a performer. I just perform because I have fun, but now it's not fun because I know I'm not as good as I was. So it's So I don't know how much more I will perform, because it is weird. I guess other performers have this when you stop playing, and then it's not like riding a bike. You need to do it lots. So I don't know if I'll perform for too much longer, but that's fine because that means I get to focus on the Deluge company.
Thanks. Okay, also die Frage war halt, ob er jetzt momentan noch selber Musik macht und wie es ihm damit geht.
Genau, und vor der Pandemie hat er halt sehr viel Musik gemacht und war auch gut im Live-Performen, hatte Spaß dabei und so. Als die Pandemie kam, war er erstmal sehr enttäuscht und irgendwie konnte nicht mehr auftreten und hat natürlich auch viele Konzerte canceln müssen. Und dann nach und nach, also im Moment weiß er jetzt nicht, ob er wieder so gut performt wie vor der Pandemie und muss sich jetzt wieder reinarbeiten und nach wieder auf das Level kommen. Und er hat immer so die Zweifel, ob er wieder genauso gut ist aktuell aber dafür hat er jetzt mehr Zeit gehabt in der Zeit halt, um das Deluge weiterzuentwickeln und an dem Produkt zu arbeiten.
Na, vielen Dank. Und genau da wollen wir nämlich jetzt anknüpfen. Also, wie geht es eigentlich, also wie hat sich Synthstrom Audible entwickelt? Das wollen wir von Ian wissen. So, would you tell us something about the history of Synthstrom Audible? How did everything...
Well, yeah, I mean, as I was saying before, there was a shared connection in the local music scene, and then I just saw Rowan sharing pictures of, it was very, very rudimentary. It was like a stainless steel box with 32 big square pads on it, no screen, and a few knobs, but it lit up and it looked beautiful, and it was the first time I'd seen a piano roll on an electronic device, and I'd been wanting to make music for a long time, and I just had to try to use these 16-step sequences, and I have a visual mind and a very basic mind, and I couldn't work out how to program a melody. I was just like, I've got to hold down this and then turn that 5 times, then this one, and like look at a screen to see what note that is, and then like it was just, I didn't understand it, and it took so long, and as soon as I saw what he was doing, I just said, wow. And so I went around to his house, I messaged him, I said, can I play on that? And then and he let me borrow it and take it home for a night, and I just wrote like 6 or 7 songs in like an hour, and I was like, wow, like this is crazy. Like I've never ever had this experience with anything in my life, that I've wanted to make music for years but couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then so I just immediately said to him, I said, look, he'd only been planning to make a couple for his friends.
Yeah.
He never thought of it as a big commercial project. But I just said to him, people need this. Like, this is what people are waiting for, so can I help you take this to the world? Yeah.
Genau, als er den Prototypen zum ersten Mal gesehen hat, war es eine reine Metallbox, unlackiert, mit nur ein paar Knöpfen und der Piano-Roll. Und er hat sich das Gerät ausgeliehen, abends einfach mal, und konnte sich gar nicht vorstellen, wie er damit jetzt Musik machen kann und wie man in diesen einzelnen Steps jetzt die einzelnen Töne programmieren kann. Und innerhalb von einer Nacht hat er wirklich 6, 7 fertige Songs gemacht und war total begeistert davon. Und obwohl es eigentlich gar nicht als kommerzielles Gerät erst gedacht war und es nur für Freunde gedacht war, der Prototyp, haben sich dann entschieden, das weiterzuentwickeln und daraus halt das fertige Deluge zu machen.
Super. Okay. Genau. Ihr konzentriert euch ja komplett auf das Deluge und Entschuldigung, ich habe gerade so einen kleinen Hänger hier irgendwie. Genau. Nee, das schneiden wir nachher ein Stück. Genau. Genau, im Zeitalter des Internets ist es ja so, dass das Feedback der Nutzer absolut direkt ist, und das haben Synthstrom Audible ganz wunderbar für sich genutzt. So, in an age of internet, users' feedback is always absolutely directly and unfiltered. So you have used this. So can you tell us something about that?
I mean, I guess when we first started, it obviously it meant a lot because we didn't know what people wanted, and a lot of people had lots of ideas. But I think as time has gone on, we've found that there's a lot of noise, and obviously it got to the point where at one stage there were like 600 feature requests on our forums, and everyone yelling about like, I want this, I want it to be this, I want it to be this, and I think we at some point just had to go and focus and say, no, this is the thing that Rowan wanted. What does he want this machine to be? And so we just kind of had to focus for a while. But now we've got to the point where we're like going, okay, we're really happy with this device now. This was what we wanted. This is our dream device. Now we're going to open it up to the community. Now you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, go crazy. But I mean, obviously it's obviously very important, the feedback from the community and what they want, but sometimes it's also important to just listen to yourself and have that confidence to go, oh, I know what we want.
Okay.
Genau, sie haben unglaublich viel auf das Feedback der Community gehört und haben irgendwie versucht, alles umzusetzen nach und nach, und es kamen so viele Nachfragen, so viele Ideen, dass sie irgendwann auch ein bisschen reduziert haben und sich fokussiert haben auf das, was sie selbst gerne wollten, um zu sehen, das ist das Produkt, was wir wollen, das ist das, was wir machen wollen. Und jetzt sind sie an dem Punkt, in dem sie halt, genau, sie haben es jetzt als Open Source angeboten, und jetzt kann jeder seine Ideen mit reinbringen und innovativ drin arbeiten und das voranbringen und so. Und das ist jetzt die Quintessenz daraus.
Eine ganz spannende Frage: Was ist dein Lieblingsfeature am Deluge? What is your favorite feature of the Deluge?
Well, I mean, I don't really use it, but when Rowan created the arranger, I was I was some hotel somewhere in the world. I can't remember where it was, and he just sent me the update for my machine, and I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen anything like it. He'd told me he was working on something like that, and he'd tried to explain to me, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like, what? What? Like, I was just going, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, I didn't understand how it was so complex and so much power. And then so he was telling me about it, and we're on the phone, and he's like going, oh, and you can also record your performance into it. And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, go into Songview, press this, record your performance into the arranger. And so I did that, and then I like flicked the arranger, and there it was. And I was like, what? And like that blew my mind. Like, absolutely. Like, anyway, I'm sure other people probably had that experience the first time they used it, and they were like, this is so powerful. I don't really use it that much because I don't really like to write songs. I like to improvise. But I mean, as far as just when I do play with it, it's great. It's beautiful. It's just it's so gorgeous, and it's like, I think that's my favorite thing about Rowan's work, is it's just so it's so elegant, you know, like the waveform view. When he showed me the waveform view for the first time, and then I like got to run my fingers around with like the end points and start points of the waveform view, I was like, this is the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. Like, being able to see that waveform, zooming into it, zooming out, moving the loop points, and like all these different, like, oh, it's so gorgeous. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Also er war gerade auf Tour unterwegs und hat dann die E-Mail bekommen, dass es ein Update gibt und mit dem Arranger. Und er konnte sich gar nicht vorstellen, das zu nutzen und wie es funktionieren könnte. Hat dann hingeschaltet und war total beeindruckt, dass man jetzt wirklich halt live darin auch noch seine Performance aufnehmen kann und das live performen kann. Und das ist für ihn unvorstellbar, wie stark und powerful das halt ist, dieses Tool damit umzugehen und ganze Songs zu performen und zu schreiben. Auf der anderen Seite ist natürlich auch die Waveform-Ansicht, dass man halt genau reinzoomen kann, den Start- und Endpunkt zu setzen und die Samples so dermaßen gut zu bearbeiten. Und das sind so die beiden Highlights, die er auf jeden Fall am meisten liebt.
Genau. Als nächstes würden wir gerne wissen, was ist eigentlich die Frage, die du gerne mal beantworten würdest, aber die niemand wirklich mal stellt? What is the question you want to answer, but nobody asks?
That's great. I guess nobody's ever asked it, so I don't know what. Let's come back to that. I'll have a think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so dann maybe. Was war der beste Ratschlag, den dir jemals jemand gegeben hat? What was the best advice someone have ever given to you?
So in the very early days of showing the Deluge to people, I don't know, are people familiar with Daedalus, Alfred Darlington? He's an LA-based musician, incredible. Anyway, me and Rowan went out to dinner with him, and at that stage we just had the very early prototype, and I sort of showed it to him, and I was like, oh, what do you think? And he's like, it wasn't even turned on. And I said, I'll just find a power source. And then he was just like, why doesn't it have a battery? And I was like,
That's great.
and me and Rowan just looked at each other and we were like, yeah, why doesn't it have a battery?
Okay.
Wir haben das Deluge einem bekannten Musiker von ihm präsentiert, haben es auf den Tisch gelegt und er meinte, ich suche noch einen Netzteilanschluss, um es anzuschalten. Und der Musiker meinte einfach nur, warum muss man ein Netzteil benutzen, warum hat es keine Batterie? Das ist das Einfachste und das Logischste. Und beide dachten, oh mein Gott, klar, das ist so logisch und so wichtig. Und genau, und seitdem hat es eine Batterie. Und das war der beste Ratschlag für das Deluge, den sie bisher bekommen haben.
Und vorher hatten wir die Frage gefragt, was ist eigentlich die Frage, auf die du antworten möchtest?
Thank you for having questions that different.
It's always the questions we really want to know.
Oh, it's much nicer to just talk to people about things as opposed to just solely about the Deluge, which is like, it's much nicer just talking about, just so you can understand a person.
Yeah.
And then because there's thousands and thousands of videos of the Deluge online. It's not good. It's just nice to talk about. Yeah, it's not. I like talking about the Deluge.
Yeah.
Because I've showed people it for 8 years.
Yeah.
I get tired of showing people what clip viewers, what song viewers, all this. I love talking about it.
So, what are you looking forward to see here at the Superbooth?
Actually, the performers.
Yeah.
I've been here many times, and I think that lots of the exhibitors are quite similar. You know, there's a few new exhibitors I want to check out, but I actually just this year was a focus for me to actually go and see lots of performances. Like, I haven't really got to ever do that in previous years. And so I've got a friend of mine who's helping out at the booth soon, and then I'll just keep on darting off and seeing people make music. Like, that's why we're all here. Like, we love live performance and live music, so I want to engage with that.
Right.
Genau, er freut sich unglaublich doll auf die Live-Performance hier vor Ort. Er meint, er hat schon so viel über das Gerät erzählt und er freut sich auch allgemein gefragt zu werden über seine Musik und so, und er ist halt total begeistert, wieder Live-Bands zu sehen. Es geht um Musik hier, es geht um Live-Performances, und deswegen ist er hier und er freut sich ganz besonders drauf.
Okay, und jetzt noch einmal zurück zu unserer letzten Frage. Was ist die Frage, die gestellt werden sollte, aber die niemand stellt? So, let's get back to the question that nobody asked, what you would love to answer to. So, or maybe something that you want to tell the people, what you want to let the people know.
I mean, I think I'm not really sure. Me and Rowan, I think we're drawn to work with each other, because we're both workaholics, and we're both also we're very strong-minded, or we're very we know what we want, and we don't like the commercial, conventional, capitalist-focused world, and we're quite interested in, always been about disruption and about community and about people. And the way we have existed together in our worlds before Synthstrom was always about community and people, and was always about being different and about trying to try new things. And I think that's what kind of most excited me about doing Synthstrom, was coming into an entirely new world that I knew really nothing about at the time, and actually going, look, there aren't that great communities built around these devices. People aren't thinking about the people who are using them, they're just thinking about sales. So it was just nice to come in and think about people, thinking about sharing people's music they were making, and trying to put on parties and get people playing their first shows, and just try to encourage people to come together. So I think that's for me the most exciting part of this entire thing, and that's why I come here. I haven't, if you look at my booth, there's no sign. There's no flyers. I'm not trying to sell deluges. I only come here because this is a place where so many of our community come to, that I can just get to meet a couple hundred people of our users over the weekend. But I mean, I would love to not even have deluges there. I just love to sit there and just talk to people. And that's largely what this is about for me.
Right.
Ja, cool. Genau, er ist ein Workaholic, und ihm geht es halt hauptsächlich darum, das Gerät zu entwickeln und auch Musik zu machen. Genau, und am liebsten wäre er auch ohne das Deluge angereist, und er hat auch keinen Banner an seinem Stand, sondern er möchte sich einfach mit den Leuten treffen, austauschen, Erfahrungen sammeln und so. Und er ist halt hier für die Musik und die Leute und den Austausch auf der Superbooth.
Ihm geht es halt nicht darum, einfach irgendwie ein Gerät zu machen, das sich super gut verkauft, sondern etwas, was die Leute haben wollen. Und das ist doch perfekt.
Absolut.
So, thank you so much
thank you very
for
much.
the interview.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, did you want to ask about the open source stuff? I mean, do you want to talk about that, or?
Yeah, maybe this is the question.
The thing is, I have been asked a lot in the last 24 hours about open source, so no one has not asked me this question.
Okay.
But I mean, if you have any specific questions you want to ask about it, I'm happy to talk about it. Is there anything?
Unfortunately, I'm not a coder. I would love to program something, because there's, to be honest, only one thing I would like to add to the Deluge. I cannot do it, and I cannot even imagine how to do it, but I'm not so much a fan of noise as a sound, but as a modulation source. And if it would be possible to use this, the noise engine inside of the analog synthesizer inside as a modulation source, and to get this gritty analog sound, it would be awesome. But I don't know how to do it. But I'm sure there's somebody who can.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the exciting bit about this, is that we don't know for once what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, but what we do know is this is a very considered decision that took us years, and we had to wait until we knew that there were, the trick with going open source, it's you need a really, really, really large base of people to start with, and then within that you need to find coders, and then within that you've got to find talented coders, and then within that you've got to find talented coders who have time on their hands, and then people who then you got to find a group who have like altruistic and like prepared to like give back to a community. So to get this like really like small set of like really amazing people, you need to start out really big. So had we tried to do this years ago, it just wouldn't have worked because we just wouldn't have had enough people. But I've been paying attention over the years and like looking at the people talking, like looking at forums, making sure that we had like that I knew the right people were really keen to get involved. And then because it would be, I think we have to set an example. If this doesn't work for us, then other companies, they won't follow. So I feel a certain responsibility that this needs to work. So we had to make sure this was done right. And I think it's the right time. When I know there's the right people out there now, and I know there's really keen, exciting people, and I think it's going to really work.
And will there be one firmware with all the added features, or will there be different kind of a more sample-based or a more synthesis-based, or is it also free and you are excited to what it will become with?
So I guess the beautiful thing is we don't exactly know. What we will be doing is we'll be encouraging one main community branch. So basically but that will be sort of like a selection of all the kind of best features from perhaps like people who have made all these separate branches. So what I anticipate will happen is there'll be people who are like going, oh, I don't use the internal synthesizer at all, so I'm going to kind of like remove kind of all the emphasis from maybe the shortcuts or all that sort of stuff, and I'm going to like make it like sequencer focused, or I'm going to add like the sequencing thing. So maybe there'll be like, or there might be like a MIDI. Someone might put out like a MIDI firmware and go, hey, all those people who just use MIDI functionality, this is focused for you. So they'll kind of like take a primary. There might be these primary things that come off, but then we will maintain. Well, our community manager will maintain a kind of key community branch, which will still be kind of like the best of. But that's the kind of exciting thing, is that we don't know. I think a lot of people will come in there and they'll go, oh, I want to make the perfect thing for me. I'm going to do all the little things that were missing for me, and then maybe I'll make that available to other people, and then communication. I mean, it's just going to be an exciting like thing to watch, to just sort of see what people will do when you give them the power, you know, and that's things like. But we know now that the people in the community are amazing, and like we know that they're going to work together. It's like we wouldn't do this if we didn't have faith and trust that everybody would actually like come together and like not bicker and not fight. You know, I think there'll be a few little teething issues as it gets going, but I've got confidence.
Das ist eine Frage zum Coden vom Deluge. Er meinte, es gibt eine riesen Community, die alle tolle Vorschläge liefern, die alle ihre Ideen haben, und aus der riesen Menge will er halt die besten Programmierer raussuchen und nach wird es fokussieren, wer genug kann, wer genug Zeit hat, wer genug Interesse daran hat, da was Neues zu implementieren. Und er kann sich gut vorstellen, dass es auch verschiedene Firmwares geben wird. Eine, die vielleicht eher Richtung Sampling geht, die Synthesizer komplett rausschmeißt, weil man es vielleicht gar nicht braucht. Andere gehen vielleicht eher in Richtung Performance als reines MIDI-Gerät und so. Und sie werden halt auf jeden Fall eine Art Best-of rausbringen, das alle Features beinhalten wird. Aber es wird auch in der Community die eine oder andere einzelne Variante geben in Richtung Sampler, in Richtung MIDI-Controller oder in Richtung Synthesizer. Also er ist selbst unglaublich gespannt, was da rauskommt und mit welchen Ideen die Programmierer rantreten und ihm das vorstellen. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.